Thanks, Jesse. Raise your hand if you think the word negotiation comes with a negative connotation. It's notable how divisive the word can be, and for some people, it can be triggering. But the definition of the word is a discussion aimed at reaching an agreement. So raise your hand now if sales or salespeople are the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word negotiation. Today, I'd like to give you a rundown on negotiations and their nature, experiences from my life, and steps to negotiate the best outcome. There are many things that we do that require negotiations. Sometimes we do it without even realizing it. We negotiate salary, wages, buying or selling a car. We negotiate with our children, and children are naturally born negotiators, so it can get intense sometimes. Event planning with associated responsibilities that come with it, what we're eating for dinner, the list goes on. Some of these examples seem innocent enough, but there are others that are associated with volition, aggressive tactics, or a focus on winning at the expense of the other party. It's important, though, to remember that at the core of the definition of the term, it's all about reaching an agreement. Agreement is a word that can also be defined as the absence of incompatibility with two or more things. So, what business do I have talking about negotiating? I'm glad you asked. I'd like to dive into negotiating experience that I have throughout my life. First off, I've been negotiating with my son for over 11 years now. Everything with him is a negotiation. Everything. And he's very strong-willed. Not, I have no idea where he gets that from. I've bought and sold more than 10 personal vehicles in my adult life. I know it's not much, but it adds to the pile. I spent 10 years on the flight line negotiating with flight crews about the safety of the aircraft that they're about to fly. I've been selling life insurance for more than 2 years now, but the most difficult negotiation every day, it still happens to be whether or not I want to get out of bed. In all seriousness, though, negotiating with yourself is a very natural thing. You want that cookie. No, you don't want that cookie. Yes, I do want that cookie. Also negotiating, running that extra mile at 6 in the morning. My point is that it happens all the time throughout our daily lives. Where I've gained the most experience in negotiations, though, is in my current job position. Everything in business development is a negotiation. Everything begins with my team negotiating with the operations team that we represent, and when we discuss how long their team needs to perform the proposed work. From that point, we then negotiate with the program management team in defense of the timeline that we've proposed. Once we get past the program managers is when we get into the negotiations with the customer. This is where the real fun begins. They are in charge of a limited amount of funding to perform the proposed work that they put up for grabs for companies to work on. And in negotiations, they ask some seriously tough questions. The first time I went through negotiations, I was very quickly a deer in the headlights. And then I left the room with tattered clothes, messy hair, because the dragon had breathed fire on me for 10 minutes straight. But I wouldn't change that experience for anything. So how do you avoid the fire-breathing dragon in your negotiations, you ask? There's a few steps that I like to follow and a few notes to myself when I enter into negotiations. The first step is to remember the details of what you're negotiating. Remember as many details as you possibly can, and when possible, quantify your details. Don't let someone get the advantage because you don't have the necessary information to negotiate effectively. Second step, have a bottom line in mind. For example, go in at $1,000 when you're going to buy a car or going to sell a car, sorry, thinking that I'll be happy with 500. You start with 1,000 and then they talk you down to 750. They think they won. You end up winning at the end of the day. Third step, don't be afraid to ask why someone is pushing for the outcome that they desire. Even if it aligns with yours, it's good to ask them questions so that they can give you the response to the defense that they're giving. Let them explain themselves and listen to every word because what comes out of their mouth next is going to be something that you can gain leverage from. When you know their pain points or their hot buttons, then you can push the negotiations further from your point of view. Last step is to be firm but be fair. You can be nice, but unwavering. Always keep your cool. And so, some notes that I always remember to myself: be assertive, but nice. Tell someone what to do, but say please. Manners and empathy are never overrated when you're dealing with people in any situation. So I'm a firm believer that you catch more flies with honey than you do with poo. Be prepared to walk away. Some negotiations in our lives don't have favorable outcomes for us, and that's okay. So at the very least, take some time to sleep on it if you have the opportunity. And if it really ends up being something that's not worth your time and money, then walk away. Lastly, don't lose your sense of self. You're smart, you're awesome, and you got this. Inner dialogue is always extremely important. So today we talked about steps to negotiate the best outcome, experiences from my life, and the nature of negotiations. Mastering negotiation means balancing logic to craft compelling arguments with empathy to understand what truly drives the other side. The best deals are not won, they are built. Back to you, Toastmaster.